Let's go back to Wrinkle in Time.
Yes.
Incredibly exciting.
Yes.
Ava, so tell us how did it come? How did that
it.
come to you, for starters? And tell us, there's an amazing statistic around it, which is very exciting too, which is that you're the first, the first African American.
What's the statistic?
Well,
Okay.
you're the first.
You're the first African American woman to develop to direct a films over $100 million. You are. That's the statistic. You are the statistic. You be the statistic. Okay.
You are the culture of inclusion.
You are the culture of inclusion.
So how did that come to you?
I just came from the editing room. I'm a little frazzled today because tomorrow is the first time that I show anyone. The director's cut is due tomorrow, and so I'm.
Who's the studio?
I'm only here because Disney.
Whoa.
Yeah, Disney.
So you're not messing around.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I'm here. I'm here with you all. And so I'm happy to be here to take a little break. But the first executives start to see it tomorrow. And yeah, it came to me through Disney. I don't have children. I'm not a children person. I think they're lovely when they're someone else's. And so when they first told me about this book, my agent said, Disney's sending over A Wrinkle in Time, and I was like, "What's a kid's book?" Okay, yeah, great. I mean, thank you, but I said, "Is it for me? Is it for me?" And they said, "Yeah, it's for you. It's for you to read." I said, "Okay." So I said, "I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it." I really couldn't believe that they were sending it for me. Like I thought, "Oh, Disney's doing this, and you should read it and maybe we can get you a meeting on it." Like I thought it was that kind of thing for a long time. It was like two times that my agents called and said, "Did you read A Wrinkle in Time? Did you read A Wrinkle in Time?" I kept saying, is it for me? Do I have to read it now? Why? Yes, it's in the stack of things to read. And finally my agent called and said, "They are asking why you're not getting back on this." And I said, "Do they want me to read this? Like really?" And so they said yes, and to take a meeting. I still didn't read it. I was busy. I was doing all the things she said. But they said, "Can you at least go in and meet with them?" And the wonderful thing about it, and I'll just tell the story because I think it's important. The wonderful thing is I said, "Well, right, who is there?" And they said it was Sean Bailey and Tindo Ngenda. And I said, "Oh, those are the homies. Yes, I will go in there." Now, it's so important that I knew them personally, because I'd never experienced that in this industry. As a black woman who grew up in Compton, who picked up a camera for the first time at the age of 33, right? I did not go to film school, so I don't know, I don't have film school friends. I don't have friends in the industry. I did not grow up in this industry. I'm literally coming in from the back door. So when I go to events for many, many years, would come to events like this, I did not know anyone. So some of you might be out there, don't know anyone. It was so, and I would go to sometimes studio meetings and I walk in feeling like an alien. I don't know these people and they don't know me. Whereas my white male counterparts so often, and I have a lot of good friends who are white male directors, they know everyone socially, through family, through school, through the basketball game, through their kids going to the same thing. You know what I mean? There's all these personal connections that allow them to walk into a room with the studio head and be like, "Oh, that's the homie. Let me have a conversation." That had never happened to me before. And it speaks to the culture of Hollywood and how some people are on the outside and the way that you even present yourself when you go in a room and you don't know them and they don't know you. Half the conversation is to try to say, "This is who I am, see me, hear me," as opposed to being able to walk into the room and say, "We know each other, let's talk about the work. This is what I do." I almost never had that experience until A Wrinkle in Time or working with Oprah, right? So we just talk about the work, right? It was the first time ever in a studio situation where I walked into Disney to Sean and Tindo. We hugged or whatever, we sat down and we started talking about the story. And the story
Did you know them before?
Yeah, I knew them before.
Okay.
That's I knew them. That was what I'm saying.
I know, but I'm waiting on how you knew them.
Well, I knew Sean. I knew Sean Bailey because I sit on the board of Sundance with him.
Okay.
And I knew Tindo, because he's black in Hollywood, and there's 7 of us, right? So I knew them. So I walked in and we were immediately able to talk about the story that I still had not read. So we're in there, we're talking about it, and it's sounding interesting. I go home that night, I read it, and I say, this is my story. This is everything. My heart was in the story. And all this time I'd been pushing it aside and hadn't been focused on it. But the minute I read it, I said, this is mine. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So I called them the next day and I said, let me come in again and tell you how I would like to make this movie. I went in, I told them it was different from what's on the page, but it's the spirit of the book.
That's because you're a visionary, that's why.
Well, spirit of the book and the spirit of what I think the author intended and wanted to share all those years ago. I told them what I do with a lot of kind of radical changes to cast, things like the lead character being a black girl, things like that. And they said yes, and so we took off for it. Oprah is in the film. She plays, so there are three kind of magical entities in the film, three celestial bodies that are known as the Misses, if anyone's read A Wrinkle in Time. And in the book, they're described, in my head as I read it, I described them as looking like three Mrs. Doubtfires, like just old ladies, like really sweet old ladies. And I said, gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful if these three women could represent like a wider breadth of womanhood, different ages, body styles, races, cultures, faiths, all of that. Could we do that? And Disney said, yeah, of course we could do that. We're Disney, yes, do that. And so the wisest, when you're looking for the wisest, most all-knowing celestial being, who do you cast? Where do you go? Who do you cast?
I don't know.
So I sent it to you. Now, you hadn't read the book.
I hadn't read the book. It never
and
made
she's the book lady and had not read this book.
It didn't make my neighborhood growing up. I hadn't even heard of it. I hadn't even heard of it.
But you can't just send Oprah the book. You need to put it on her one bed stand, and you need to put it on her other bed stand, and you need it on her kitchen table.
Yes.
But when I first read it, I thought that Mrs. Witch felt like I play Mrs. Witch. Reese Witherspoon is Mrs. Whatsit, and Mindy is Mrs. Who. Mrs. Witch. Did I say Mindy Kaling? Mindy Kaling's Mrs. Who. And so Mrs. Witch is born of the millennias. She's been around for millions of years and born of the stars and is one of the wisest beings on earth. And for me, she felt like a cross between Maya Angelou and Glinda the Good Witch, who is my favorite character of all times, actually.
A good cross.
Yes, and a good cross. So I really was just wanting to hang out with Ava as a friend, and she had said that I'd seen an Instagram where she was scouting in New Zealand, and I thought, I want to go to New Zealand. It's one of those things on my bucket list. So I was like, I'll go to New Zealand. While Ava is filming, I'll watch her film, and I'll have vacation. Yep. And as it turns out, I said, Ava, I want to come watch you film. And she said, if you're going to do that, why not just read the script? Because I was thinking of asking you. Well, go right ahead. And so it turns out that I'm now Mrs. Witch, and we got to go to New Zealand, which should be on everybody's bucket list.
Oh, my gosh, we had so much fun there.
Yeah, it should be on your bucket list.